Hey guys, welcome back to Pillbox Movies. I'm Hank, and we're continuing on in our adaptations of Séance on a Wet Afternoon. We recently watched Kiyoshi Kurosawa's adaptation of Séance on a Wet Afternoon. I think I was pretty clear that I was disappointed with the adaptation. I thought it brought a lot of interesting Kurosawa-isms to the material, but it also flipped around or recalibrated the mechanics of the original work that in a way that kind of misaligned its purpose. And so I wanted to check out the original adaptation, the older adaptation. I've actually seen Séance on a Wet Afternoon before, and that's what kind of caused a lot of my disconnect with the Kurosawa adaptation. And I really like it. Séance on a Wet Afternoon is one of my favorite thrillers, but it's also a movie I haven't seen in a long, long time. I usually don't do rewatches on this channel. I try and focus on finding stuff that I haven't seen before, exploring stuff, discovering stuff, but I thought this would be a good opportunity for re-exploration, re-examination. And yeah, it's just a really good movie. Maybe it won't be as good the second time around, we'll see. So, yeah, let's watch Séance on a Wet Afternoon. We wait, seeking the sign beneath the weeping willows. I love starting in absolute stark silence.
A message. It's a young face. Peaceful. Oh, very peaceful.
So we're introduced to Kim Stanley as the medium. I'd say something that this film explores as an idea or theme is exploitation in the outer edges of human experience, in instances of distress, of grief, of mental unwell, where human beings harm and exploit and perhaps try and protect each other in these outskirts. And I love the sinister of the title, the kind of languorousness of it, and yet the kind of apparent threat behind it. Séance on a Wet Afternoon is just so evocative. Ooh, music's by John Barry. I kind of think of this maybe in terms of British New Wave or in terms of British architecture.
Turn on the light, Billy.
But something that'll be very kind of prominent in this is very closed off kind of architecture, very constrictive, claustrophobic. The characters are made to feel to occupy too much space, or there's too much furniture within the various within the various rooms of this house.
Yes. We shall have to test it from the outside tonight. Of course, it's not what it used to be. Not his room any longer. But Arthur understands.
That's something that'll come up. Something that I just want to note for this is that there's an interesting kind of mixture in the way that Forbes is choosing to shoot this, that he actually has a dynamic range between static and moving camera shots. And you just saw in that previous scene.
Perfect. Did you put the extra strong bulb in?
Yes.
Where Billy is pretty static and controlled, and Mira has the camera kind of sliding around her, kind of capturing her eccentricity or her mania. And there's a really kind of delightful aspect to the way that this is filmed, this mix of static and movement that kind of gives a sense of, for me, it feels like bipolar disorder. It feels like swings and roundabouts of mania and depression. And that very much represents the kind of journeys that these two characters will take.
Well, we're not having any last-minute doubts, are we, Billy? You know it's too late for that. We have to go through with it exactly as planned. I want things to be different, not only for me, but for all of us.
So this is a fundamental difference between the two adaptations. That Séance in 1999 presumes the psychic abilities of the wife, that she actually has a vision of a girl that's been kidnapped. And here we kind of understand it in a more kind of pedestrian or...
But it's not wrong. What we're going to do is not wrong. We're doing it for his sake. Arthur wants me to be recognized for what I am.
A kind of normal settings where this couple is actually planning a kidnapping from the outset, perhaps propelled on by Mira's own delusions or beliefs in her psychic abilities that she's informed by her son, Arthur, to to bring this plan about, but still, it's
Suddenly so terribly quiet.
there's a comparative degree of agency in this and intentionality in this that's lacking in the Kurosawa
Did you
version,
turn that off?
and that's important,
No, dear,
I
you
think,
did it
for
yourself.
the
I did.
the engine of the
I wanted
movie.
it on. Why would I turn it off?
Well, then it must have been me.
And we can see how Billy is like a caretaker. He tries to, at his own fault, to a fault, he's a caretaker for Mira, that he
Pleasure week.
is dealing with this
And
trauma in their household by constantly trying to aid and serve
Well,
Mira,
that's a too good reason.
to the degree that he is willing to reshape reality to meet her
We've had
needs.
so much sorrow, Billy. I sometimes wish I were ordinary, like you. Dead
Ordinary.
ordinary.
This is a really interesting contrast or dynamic or juxtaposition that's being posed early on in the film, that of the ordinary and the extraordinary, that both characters view themselves as one, and to a certain degree their partners as the other. And we're actually going to discover that Mira thinks that she's extraordinary and that Billy is ordinary, and Billy thinks that he's ordinary and that Mira is extraordinary in different ways. Mira thinks that she's extraordinary because she has this vision, this gift, and Billy thinks that Mira is extraordinary because she has a condition, or her depression, and their expectations of their own ordinariness or extraordinariness will kind of be overturned as the movie progresses. Mira will be proven to be ordinary in that she plans a kidnapping, something that doesn't rely on psychic abilities at all, something that's commonplace and cruel, and Billy will exemplify himself as extraordinary by doing something that's so outside the bounds of regular human behavior, regular social human behavior, in being willing to do this kidnapping. We'll see in their actions revelations of characters that are in fundamental contrast with their self-image.
You don't have my gift. Door.
Yeah, this is a movie of
Mummy hadn't left me this house.
such huge dualities: man, woman, husband, wife, dark, light,
Just there.
vision, no vision,
Still, I have made it up to you
mania,
always,
depression,
haven't
imprisonment,
There's
freedom.
lots of ways.
I? And you do need me, don't you?
He wouldn't be doing this if he didn't. Some of the incredible darkness of this
I don't
film
have to say.
is that it's motivated,
I wouldn't be here, would I, if I
in
didn't?
some ways it's motivated by greed, it's motivated by desperation, but fundamentally it's motivated by love. Billy fundamentally loves Mira. Mira fundamentally loves Arthur.
It was nice being different. You see, it wasn't a trick, and it was real.
I love these performances by Kim Stanley and by Richard Attenborough, Kim Stanley in particular, that they both have such a face, such a forward-facing identity of calm
What's it all been for?
and control, and underneath is such a desperate turmoil. I love her eyes darting back and forth at the clock. Such a good characterization. Just the huge faces of British New Wave. That's one of its like core tenets, or one of the style markers of that movement that I always think about. I think character actors are so beautiful. I think by not being routinely beautiful, you have to mark out certain characteristics in them, certain identifiable markers. And for Richard Attenborough, it's certainly his eyes and his eyebrows. Certainly. Eyes, eyebrow, mustache. The sounds of the score reflecting her shouts. It's a nice little touch. It's Alex North being a little bit literal, I suppose, but that's definitely a characteristic of his scores. In some ways, I like how playful, how like childish the score is. The score kind of reflects the mentality of both the savages, but it also reflects their the children in their lives, the son and the kidnapped victim.
Don't be afraid, dear. Don't be afraid. It's only a game.
And framing it as a game, again, the kind of childishness and the brutality of the act kind of mixed together, presented as one.
It doesn't have an E, does it?
What?
Whom?
No.
Oh, you've got one. If there's any attempt to detain the man to whom you will give the money, you will never see your daughter alive again.
I love that break. That was just such a perfect place to put that pause, that break in concentration to address there being an E in whom, so that you're like thrown when the final line is revealed.
Even though we don't mean it, they have to believe we mean it. But what have we done? We've borrowed a child.
Borrowed a child, sure. And this is an example. So Billy reframes reality for Mira, and here Mira's reframing reality for Billy.
We have borrowed a child, Billy. Borrowed. Borrowed. Just keep saying that. Well, then you must agree with the means. You can't have one without the other.
There's this particular like lilt speech pattern that Mira has
Keep the money,
that
the child won't be hurt in any way.
is really like sinister.
No.
It's really interesting. She kind of speaks in a rhetorical fashion. It's kind of like a Valley Girl for, vocal fry. Everything ends in like a question.
You lack imagination. You miss all the good things in life just because you won't reach that bit further to touch the truth.
It almost sounds like a trance, like a hypnotism. Billy has comparatively like flat affect. Has a comparatively flat affect.
And come back safely.
And Mira has like it sounds like it's like it sounds like it's constantly sloping upwards. It's like she talks like this, she talks like this, she talks like this, she talks like this, and it's just like constantly like inducing you.
Take her before it's too late.
Just really, really brilliant performance by Kim Stanley. Just so many levels, so many ways in which she's like immersed us into the character. So many different facets to the character to unravel. I forgot this score, this theme.
Good morning, Amanda.
I feel like I've heard this somewhere else as well.
You're in hospital. Ever been in hospital before?
You didn't take that long enough.
Didn't I?
No, Dr. Loxton takes ages. Why am I in hospital?
I like part of also the characterization of Mira that she's actually also pretty absent-minded. She overlooks a lot of like pretty banal or normal details. Part of that is like this plan not being well conceived, well thought out, but another part is like
Oh no, this is a very special kind. Double German measles.
yeah, but another part of it is that her plan or her mental state is informed by the grief she feels, and so she doesn't display a lot of clarity of thought or action.
Hey, miss.
It's The Incredibles, isn't it? I feel like I've heard this somewhere else as well. This theme is kind of reinterpreted in The Incredibles.
Savage, you are a professional medium, are you? Yes.
Semi-pro.
Part-time.
Oh, you think I'm after money?
Well, it's possible, isn't it? People do things for money. It has been known.
Thank you.
I wonder if there was like a spate of like kidnappings or kidnapping stories in the media running up to this time. I mean, you like the Lindbergh baby and whatever, but when I think of kidnappings, like statistically, I think, you know, it's a family member or something of that sort. So I'm wondering if there was like strangers kidnapping, ransom kidnappings in the media a lot leading up to this, or public perception that there was.
I'm sorry.
Your name and address, ma'am. I'm supposed to make a note of everybody who comes and goes.
Turn out the light.
She does have a good sense of danger on her, though. I love in this mostly quiet film how huge the doorbell sounds as a result. Interesting times in which like the cavernousness of the house is utilized. Like most of the rooms are pretty well furnished, and so sound is pretty small. It gets absorbed a lot, but in this foyer, it's mostly empty, and so the sounds of the door knocking and the bell ringing resonate so strongly. They're not allowed to do that. As will be evidenced further along in this movie, over and over again, this wasn't a very well thought out plan at all.
Look, it's not going to work. If we do something now, we might just get away with it.
What would we get away with, Billy? Nothing. Not tonight. They won't be back tonight.
First thing tomorrow morning. What difference does it make?
Great deal of difference, Billy. She won't be here tomorrow morning.
It's such a great mix. She's so nefarious, and at times so dumb.
We were going to do something so perfect, so pure, that would harm no one, would only do good. And we've made a start, a wonderful start. That's what you want, isn't it?
Isn't it? It's really interesting. Like, who's the delusional one in this relationship?
Well,
they're both delusional,
remember.
but
You've wanted nice things for me, haven't you?
you wonder who's
That's
manipulating
true, isn't it?
whom. Not that Billy's outright manipulating Myra, but he kind of reframes or reshapes reality to suit her needs. And similarly, she routinely tries to reshape and reframe reality with him to also suit her needs.
Yes. Well, that's all then. Wait! Don't hurt my baby.
Sharp with the editing as well for a few key sequences, because they don't really have like action set pieces or whatever. They have to try and up the tension, up the thrill using editing. Ooh, Billy Liar. Ooh, oh, what a lovely war. Oh. And Oliver as well.
You hid the money, did you?
Yes, what do you mean, hot?
A bit hotter than usual, that's all.
Yes, but what does that mean?
That she has a bit of a temperature, I suppose. It's nothing unusual in children.
How would you know?
Ooh, no. Oh, boy. Things are beginning to unravel.
We're mad, you and me. I have to get a doctor.
Billy, don't be stupid.
The child's ill and we've got to have a doctor. Look, don't walk away when I'm talking to you. What are you doing? I'm telling you what we've got to do. We've got to get a doctor.
So it's so simple, is it? We just call the doctor. Now, what should we say to him, do you think? We'll say we've kidnapped a child and ask him to treat it in confidence. Is that what we should do, Billy?
And she's like blinking more now that she's like nervous. These would be circumstances in which I would keep the mask on, both medically and incriminatingly. The strange relationship of these customers, these clients that come to the seance. It's so much in the periphery.
You go out, please.
Someone else comes calling.
Oh, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. You haven't been before, have you?
No, I haven't.
May I have your name, please?
Clayton. Mrs. Clayton.
Portrait of the child. A little daunting.
Straight ahead.
He is very particular that she goes through the right door.
I thought she might come.
But you can't with a child in here. You just can't.
Oh, yes, Billy, yes.
That's the whole point of
She's
this.
come, don't you see? Now she can share my truth.
Just madness. The more she smiles, the more you're assured something terrible is going to happen. It's kind of a social thing. They do it because they want to relate to a group of other people.
Shall we make our circle?
I understand. They've probably known some grief in their life. Otherwise, why else would they go to a seance? They'd have a natural proclivity to it if they've experienced grief in their life. This is a means of connecting. Ostensibly to the dead, but to other people who have a shared experience.
What is it?
I love how low the candle is, how much of the wick has been burned off. You really get a sense of how long this process is, how deeply entrenched these clients have been to this process.
About a child.
Mommy?
You're worried about a little girl.
Mommy?
Oh, yes. She's being taken care of.
It's really horrible. It's really awful.
We're concerned about her future happiness.
Mommy?
Industries, businesses, whatever, designed around
She's
helping
playing,
people
She's happy.
end up taking them in as
All
captives.
future happiness. When will I see her again?
And it's like so complicated because Myra and Billy have experienced grief in their own life.
No.
They think they're helping, perhaps. They think they're providing a solve. And the kind of like the line that moves it from being helping to it being a trespass, to it being manipulation, it being an exploitation, is so unclear to them. You're always made to wonder if she's doing this to
Someone could perhaps help me. I'll get
more deeply take in Mrs. Clayton, or if she, at that moment, actually saw what the end...
Who is going to die? Die? Yes, you said the word. Who is it for?
what the end results of this process is going to be.
Whatever my wife told you, I'm sure, will come true.
Well, what did she say during that seance?
For me, won't you? I'm always so surprised. So bright after a seance. Brightness just seems to fall from the air.
What is it you want to tell me?
Everybody in this movie is motivated by grief and by love.
He was so
It's
close.
so
He kept
tragic.
talking about love. That was the word he used. That's what gave him the idea.
What idea?
Idea? What idea?
He says she doesn't really want to go back. He says she'd be much happier with him.
No, come on, lady.
Notice of me and he kept saying how much happier she'd be if we sent her to him?
Lady.
Myra.
Lady. Lady.
I didn't say anything. You said it. It was you. It's what you've been thinking.
We're past the point now. If you feed this thing, if you
It's
allow
you.
this thing,
It's all
you reach the
you.
point. You
He's
reach the
never
point where you
existed.
can't turn back.
He was dead. He didn't live. He was dead, Myra. He was born. It's you, Myra. It's always been you.
Not
All that is dead. Say it!
No! I know he's dead. I know that. I do know that. But I do talk to him. And he does talk to me. Please don't make me say he doesn't talk to me. Please. I do when I see him. I am different. I do see him. That's why I want her. She makes me feel so much closer
Oh
to him.
no.
That's why, Billy.
Oh no.
Wouldn't be fair to take away from me now.
Mommy?
Past the point.
This isn't really a hospital, is it? Hospitals are all right.
She needs to affirm her delusion so much that she'll actually tear apart reality to affirm it, including killing a child. If it takes killing a child to reaffirm her delusion, then that's what's necessary.
Left her door unlocked.
Yes, Billy. She's seen your face.
Such a twisted character.
Do it for me, Billy.
Firing on all cylinders, a character that is so naive and yet so manipulative, at once desperate for the love of her unborn child and yet constantly manipulating the people in her life, willing to put a child to death just to affirm the love she has for her unborn child. It's just such an insane character.
You already enjoy a very considerable reputation, Mr. Savage.
Do I?
Oh, yes, indeed.
Buttering her up.
And
I
you
love
in
the
our
use of
particular
eyes in
circle,
this.
if I may put it, but it travels very
In
short.
this last section,
You
the
want
kind
me
of
to give
there's
you
also a
exact
contrast, a difference
information
of
about the little girl. Is that
of presentation between the psychic, the medium, and the detectives. The detectives lead with their eyes; they're observational. They don't say anything, and by contrast, Myra, as a medium, she closes her eyes during seances and she just speaks. I love watching the cameras in these because the cameras just have to back away because there's such strong shadows in this. They use such stark lighting, and you can see the camera operator of the camera every once in a while, and you can see them just like backing out, just like, I gotta get out of the shot, gotta get out of the shot.
Could we all join hands?
It's also an interesting inversion of her usual seance circle, that her usual seance circle has all women except for one man, and this is all men except for her. Just little clues that this seance isn't going to go exactly as usual. She's the only one who has her eyes closed. They all keep their eyes open. Their like walls are up, whereas in a usual seance, the clients are like give themselves over, and in this case they're hyper vigilant.
Everybody's waiting. Stop that shouting! No, I won't! I won't! You can't see him. You can't see him. You wouldn't let me see him. Nothing to hold. Oh, my Billy.
It's like the tragedy of this character, that she lives so much in the spiritual world. She has nothing physical to hold on to.
In the dark. I said die. Die? It's not dead. It's not. Oh, she was here. She was here in Arthur's room. Oh, she saw him. She saw Billy. She saw him. She saw him. take her, Billy, take her. Kill her, others waiting, Billy, take her, Billy. Kill her, Billy, take her.
Where'd you hide the money, Mr. Savage?
In the coal bunker.
Did I do it right, Billy?
This couple,
Yes, dear.
just living at the edge of human experience, dealing with the greatest grief, almost capable of the greatest atrocity. Yeah, it's just such a dark work. I misremembered whether or not the little girl was actually dead at the end, but like regardless, the kind of characterization of grief and obsession and delusion that this couple presents is so dark. And what I like in contrast to the Kurosawa adaptation is that while there's a balance, like this couple is always on the front foot. They're always like enacting the action, and it's so rare that they're put in a situation where they have to act reactively or reflexively. And so much of this story's dementia, its darkness, its atrocity is based on decisions that they make. And I think that's a really wonderful thing about this version of the story, is that it's all within their decision making and how closely we can gear the audience towards, if not condoning, if not certifying their actions, at least understanding them, understanding the perspective, understanding that these things that they're doing are well within their control and well within their agency, and yet they are simultaneously both so helpless and both kind of entrapped and ensnared in this dynamic that they have with each other that's compelling them to do this. Yeah, I just really love this. I really love this movie. I think it's so twisted, and in a way that's kind of characteristic of earlier films. Like, something that I appreciate about modern films is their ability to show the dark things, show the darkness, show the actual bad things that are happening in the world. But I think they lose a degree of sophistication or a degree of subtlety in that presentation, where modern movies or contemporary movies are so obsessed with showing what the bad thing is that they kind of lose sight of the actual effects or the after effects, that what movies are supposed to make us feel isn't seeing like necessarily the bad things in the world. It's seeing how the bad things change us, or see how we behave with the bad things in the world. Yeah, I really love this movie. I think it's such a great performance by Richard Attenborough and by Kim Stanley. Just such a great performance by Kim Stanley, and so well like complemented by the direction. You'd think she had been playing this character all her life. Just the mannerisms, the peculiarities she brings to the performance, the weird way in which she seems so desperate and so cold simultaneously, especially in her characterizations with Billy, but especially with the kid, where she's so desperate to have a child, to have something warm, something relatable to kind of push her maternal feelings onto. And yet you see the interaction she has with the child, and it's so cold. She puts on the warm face. She puts on the mask of being a nurturer and a caretaker, but there's like nothing behind the eyes. And it's such a brilliant characterization. I don't know how else to put it, like, because she doesn't view this child as a human being. She doesn't view it, the child, as anything but like a proxy or an extension to meeting her needs. The child that she sees, that she cares for, is this imaginary child, this Arthur, and she's so devoted to it, and so delusional and committed to this delusion that she can't see the solid, real child in front of her and the solid, real grief that she's causing to this child's parents. It's a masterfully wrought character in terms of the writing, in terms of the performance, in terms of the direction. It's one of the finest performances in film. at least for the ones that I've seen. Yeah, I really recommend giving this a watch if you've never seen it before. That was Séance on a Wet Afternoon. Still good on second viewing. In the meantime, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe for more old, obscure, and art house films. And until next time, keep watching good movies.